Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Feature Creeps, the show where two distinguished software engineers analyze tech and dream about all the features, all the little unnecessary fun features that could be added in all sorts of tech. Today we're going to be talking about Google Docs, but first I'm your host Johnny and here's your other host Joao.
Hello everyone, welcome. Hello Johnny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
Oh good.
So we usually start by playing the game Where in the World is Joao? So whereabouts in the world are you today, Joao?
I am finally in a place you can call home for me, but I call it a stopover, which is London.
Nice.
I'll be here for a few weeks now.
I was calling London home for about 7 years, but now I call it the place that's better in climate than people think, but still not as good as being close to the Mediterranean and Barcelona.
Great definition. That's it.
So today we're going to be talking about Google Docs, and I understand you can tell us a little bit about that document collaborative writing tool that came to the world around 2006.
That's it. Yeah. So Google Docs, you may have used by now, came in 2006, and if you look back in what's the word like in 2006 and what it is like to create a document in 2006, you would have potentially just one option would be Microsoft Office. And the word in 2006 looked like this. You had top of the chart, you had Shakira, Hips Don't Lie, you had Justin Timberlake's Sexy Back on the top of the charts for music. You had George W. Bush as the president of the US and Tony Blair as the prime minister in the UK. Lost, the TV show, was still in third season. And Microsoft had released the Microsoft Office 2007 because they were always ahead of time. They would release the 2007, 2006, right? You remember that, Johnny, when you had to install all the CDs and all that?
Yeah, that would happen. They love doing this. They do it for versions of Windows as well. But they eventually stopped because they were afraid people would be confused if they were going to call a version of Windows like 2010 or 2005 or something like that. It's just like, is this worse than Windows 95? Because it's only version 5? Like, what's happening there? So they switched the model right about then. But until then, they loved doing that.
Yeah, and they had a big shakeup in 2006 because
they had already made 2006 versions of Office, so they were like, time to shake things up.
Exactly. But they were hit with Google Docs coming live, and that was a big change. And it was a disrupt in how we collaborate, how we create documents, because of the cloud-based collaboration system. They created something that you can collaborate and live collaborate online. And that's really something that was missing and something that people didn't know they wanted. It's sort of like a feature that people didn't want. They wanted, but then when they use it, they're like, I definitely want this. And Google Docs was first released in 2006 and has been improved since then. But the key features were cloud-based collaboration. And this is why Google Docs exists until today and is one of the most used document collaboration tools in the market. And the availability of anytime, anywhere, using different devices nowadays, and integration with all the other Google services and being hooked into that. So we'll talk more about the best features and the features we like about Google Docs, but I think those are the reasons I existed. Something needed to compete with Microsoft Office back then, and that was the reason they came alive.
So back then, I don't think cloud-based was a term that people used. It wasn't in the vocabulary. But I'm not sure if they went with like browser-based even, because maybe that was not common. But it was definitely a huge selling point that it was browser-based. You can run it anywhere. You can potentially run it on your phone if it had a big enough screen and it was decent enough to write on. But that was a huge differentiator back then. And having tools being browser-based, there was a period in time, maybe like a decade, where I would be super excited if a tool was browser-based. But then I'm not sure if nowadays I'm more excited when a tool is a standalone app or a browser-based app. I'd love to here in the comments if people get more excited or they trust an app more if it's browser based or if it's a dedicated app. I don't know. How do you feel about this?
It's true. It's true. Back then, I think we felt more like there were when you had all the apps installed in your laptop, they would take a lot of space. Like if you think of like Microsoft Office, that was a huge chunk of space in your machine. And I think you're more conscious about installing things here and there. And then things that would come as browser based would solve that problem for you because you just run it once, it would just load everything in memory. Maybe it would store something in your hard drive, but you wouldn't have to install it. So that was a nice solution for something people that were scared of, losing all your space in your machine. So, but now I think we circle back into. I agree with you. I think nowadays I feel like native apps, they are better. Obviously, they use better the resources on the operating system, so they feel and they actually are normally better.
Because on the other hand, there are a lot of standalone apps that are actually wrappers of web apps using things like Electron and arguably using those technologies not in the best way, not in an optimized way, which led to a lot of those apps being resource hogs and running very, very badly and burning your batteries and all of that, which may have made people think, well, I don't want a standalone app of this because I'd rather have it on the browser. But back to what you were saying, yeah, I'm sure people were happy to just hit a URL and then they're in their Google Docs. They don't need to install and keep their installation disks just in case they need to uninstall and reinstall it somewhere else. They won't need to put their documents in a thumb drive or email them and then access them somewhere else. They could have them everywhere. But I do wonder, I'm sure that Google Docs played a part in getting people more comfortable doing stuff like that on the browser, but maybe another Google product, Gmail, could have pioneered this, like being able to use a browser-based app. I think that may have been the thing that made it trend and be very accepted in the world.
Potentially. But I think that was all part of Google's efforts and bringing people to the browser so they could have that ecosystem they have now, which includes Google Drive, includes Gmail, includes Google Meet, and Google Chrome that came later.
So would you like to tell us, why does Google Docs exist? Why did that happen in 2006? Why did Google put the resource to create this product?
Yeah, I think it was that disruption that people were looking for. Something that they could imagine. This is the word in 2006. You would create a document, and for us to collaborate, Johnny, I would have to send you the document, and then you do something on it, and I wait for you to send me back the document. That was how it used to be, right? And that's this whole process. This one itself was a problem to solve. So they probably looked at it like, okay, how can we streamline this project, this process, and make it easier for people to collaborate on this document. And yeah, I think it was probably something that a lot of it's one of those things that a lot of people were thinking how to solve, and one of those moments that people looked at it like it's solved now.
Yeah, definitely, because
nice
you were essentially blocked when, if I were to write a document and then send it over to you to do some edits or add your piece or whatever else, I would be essentially blocked from working on it because I would be afraid of overwriting my work or losing my work when I finally got back the response from you and then I loaded yours. Doing that conflict resolution that maybe if you work in software you're familiar with, people that just do writing, they're not familiar with it at all, especially back in 2006. So you'd just be frozen there waiting, all right, is my collaborator done with this? Can I get a revision? Can I work on it? Well, when you can collaborate with something like Google Docs, that's instant. And I don't remember, could you launch, like, did they have that nice little feature where you could see the other person's cursor right from launch, or did they add that eventually? Because that is definitely one of my favorite features in Google Docs today.
That's a good question, but I think that could have been a feature creep. Having to see the other person's cursor. Yeah. And I've seen that happening in collaborative apps. And I heard the story from, I think was Mirror, that they had lots of features at first, and then they spent like this long time trying to build the cursor. functionality, like the double cursor functionality, so everyone could see the same cursor. But then they realized they could release without it, and then they could have the other activity indicator later.
Although I would push for that being an MVP feature for Miro, which is like a virtual post-it Kanban board type of thing that I'm trying to load, but it's not loading up. And there are few things worse than seeing something disappear and you don't understand why, or you're trying to work on something and then suddenly letters pop up. And if you don't have the cursor, if you don't have the ability to see what the others are working on, what they're touching, what they're affecting and mutating, then you just have unpredictable behavior as far as you're concerned. So I would say that it's MVP feature to have something like this here. And I'm showing here the Miro website where it finally loaded, and you can see that they have front and center their little cursors, highlighting things, dragging and dropping. It's like, oh, Juan is doing this, Sofia is doing this, Ahmed is doing this. I like the Juan because we're Johnny and Joao, and we got a Juan in here. It's like only Johnny is allowed. Versions of Johnny's around the world. Anyway, I digress.
Was targeted.
Can you imagine? But yeah, cursor thing. You were saying that in the end, they did wait for that to be ready for Miro, but they were debating that maybe we could have launched without this.
Yeah. I think that was it. That's the story. Yeah, but going back to like why Google Docs exists, I think there's more to just like collaboration. I think they solved, to be honest. There is the constant updates. It's live. You don't have to wait for Microsoft Office 2008. Although Microsoft would release some patches and updates on your Office, but it would be like everything that Google. There was no version, right? You wouldn't buy for a version. Everything they released would be immediately live, and you get constant updates, and that's like.
And again,
no
in
CDs.
2006, you'd have people very afraid to update software because they'd be afraid, what if my version is not compatible? What if it messes up with my current document? So I'd never do that. But Google Docs, you don't really have a choice unless you leave your computer and your browser on forever. If you're going to hit it again, you're going to get a new version and you're going to get what Google engineers want. And that's great for them. And that's great for you in the end. But that's sometimes users don't behave in a way that's best for them at their best interest because they don't know better.
Yeah, indeed.
Sure. So any more on why does Google Docs exist?
Yeah, I think just one more to add to that is the cost. I think that was crucial on the differentiator of Google Docs.
You're not going to tell me you needed to pay for Microsoft Office and Microsoft Word.
Yes, exactly. You
Pay
had
for
to
software.
pay a lot of money for
that?
it, and it was one of the most expensive things to buy, and it was they didn't have much competition back then, and you just had to buy them in order to have a document editor, in order to edit your spreadsheets or documents. There were other alternatives that you could go like notebook or
Notepad,
things like that. Notepad, yeah. And that was Notepad++ that was slightly better.
I used that for my first coding projects.
Yeah. But, there was no one as a real competitor back then. And the prices were really high.
So it's interesting because there was a lot of bundling of Microsoft Word inside the Microsoft Office suite. Because nowadays, we would think that writing documents and collaborating on documents, that should be like a democratized feature. Anyone should be able to do it. Anyone should be able to write documents. But even if back then you felt that I should be able to write in a nice piece of software without paying a ton of money, they were trying to bundle it with other software that would be more niche and more pro, to say a word that Apple loves as well. So you'd have Microsoft Excel, of course, and many others. Like I wouldn't say that PowerPoint is like a pro app, but there were tons that would have like a Microsoft Access and all those. And in order for you to feel like you are getting scammed less or you're getting more value for money, they would tell you, all right, you can buy Word for like £50, but you can get the whole Office suite for like 100. So, go for that one. And then you have like 10 amazing pro tools at your disposal, and that's a good deal.
It's such a common pattern on products that came later as well. I wonder if Microsoft invented that, but yeah.
It will definitely be like a very successful implementation of that concept. And Google tried to do it as well, not paid, of course, but they also have Google Sheets and Google Slides, and they managed to get some variations of the successful Office products in the end. But I do think Google Docs is by far the best one. Even if many people use Google Sheets, I'd say that most people would say Microsoft Excel is better, and especially in business, they use it more. Well, even if there was resistance in the past for Microsoft Word to be the thing and stay on Microsoft Word, I think very quickly Google Docs became the thing that companies were using.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that.
So, if I could, I would rather try to summarize or guess what was the MVP for Google Docs, and then try to suggest what the initial feature creeps that maybe made it to release. I imagine it would have been MVP. I need to work on documents, and I need to be able to import and work with and export Microsoft Word files because everyone else was going Word. So that might sound like a feature that you don't really need nowadays, but I'm sure that in 2006, this was deal breaker. We cannot launch without being able to import nicely Microsoft Word documents. And we should be able to collaborate because even though it may not feel MVP for your unique writing experience, the collaboration part and the browser-based part was the differentiator, the unique selling point to make Google Docs a success. I think, like, even though they may feel for a writing app, you can get away with not having those two features, I think they were essential for Google Docs, so they must have been MVP. And for like fun feature creeps that maybe made it in, maybe making it look like it is actually a page. Now I am using the version here that is pageless. Finally, in 2023, we made it to like a pageless writing documentation software. But it used to be that you could separate the pages like in Microsoft Word, like this. But in Google Docs, how many people were actually printing out real A4 pages for this? So I'm not sure that's how they started. I could see how they didn't have this visual page break feature. I could see that they could have started with something that was seamless. So you just have like a full white page all the way down. You can vertically scroll all the way and it never page breaks. So I could see this being like a feature creep. Like, do we really need to visually distinguish the pages? And someone said, yeah, because maybe someone will print it, so let's launch with it. But I could see it as well as a non-essential feature that they added mostly for fun, like just to be able to see your entries as pages.
Yeah, I 100% agree on the export import. I think that was crucial for the MVP, being able to integrate and move your work from and to Microsoft Office. And those things of the pages and the ruler and the margin, I think those are also potentially in between essential and feature creep, as you said, because someone must have come and said, it must look a little like Microsoft Word or a lot like Microsoft Word. And it must have the drag and drop like ruler and the margins and the paddings and things like that. So, and like font editing, bolding, and all that would be essential. But
it was an interesting time to try to create a clone or a copy of a successful tool as well, because you had less metrics, fewer metrics back then. So if you were just to look at all the shortcuts that Microsoft Word supports, then I'm sure it will be a list on like the dozens, hundreds, like a million shortcuts that you need to support. And you didn't have the data to say that, all right, most users just do copy, paste, bold, underline, like these 12 features, we need to have them in SIP. You would just have the list of 200 available features in Microsoft Word, and then it's just your guess of whether you should actually bother to add this feature or not. And I do remember the Google Docs UI being much more simplistic than this and not offering all these variations that it has today. Like you have lists, you have to-do lists, you have numbered lists, you can indent from this side, from that side, you can do so many things. And I think there were like maybe 6 icons at most. Like, here's your font, you can make it a bit bigger, you can bold, underline, italics, and all of that. And that was about it when it initially launched.
Yeah, and maybe that's a link into how things haven't actually changed much for Google Docs. If you look at it now, how much different it is from this tool in the past. It has added quite a few features here and there in tools, and there's some important ones that were added much later. But in visuals, it looks the same. But it's Google classic of it's everything that Google has live has been boring for long enough by now.
And I'd imagine that Microsoft Word as well looks pretty much like it did back in the day. The Mac Apple version of the same thing looks pretty much the same as it did back then. Because I guess if it works in Word, it works. Sometimes people hate change, especially when they're paid to like work in Excel or whatever else. Like, why could you change this so rapidly? I remember there was controversy when they tried to change the toolbar to have like the ribbon style breadcrumbs. And people revolted. They were like, what is this? I've been using this for 20 years and now you're changing how I'm supposed to interface with this tool. I don't want it. Take it back. I want it to look exactly the same for 50 years and more. If I retire, then you can move on and change things if you really want to.
I get it. It's like Amazon shopping, I guess. People prefer recognition over learning how to use a new UI. Google has offered like beta UI in many of the tools they have before, and I'm not sure what the result there, but I think many times they had to roll back because people wouldn't opt in into the beta AI UI because, well, people just won't stay the same. They won't recognize what they had for 20 years, as you said.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose today something to use for my documents, and I don't know if it's the same for you, I wouldn't use Google Docs. Only if I have to use Google Docs, I would use the Google Docs.
Yeah, eagle-eyed viewers of the video version of this podcast and my other live streams and such may notice that I am using Notion for managing the end of the day, the to-do list, what we've done, what we haven't done. And that's my go-to nowadays for all my document needs, even though Notion does do much, much more than Google Docs itself. It's not just a document writing tool. You can have databases, you can have spreadsheets, you can embed things dynamically. There are many, many things you can do there. And Google Docs is trying to feature creep itself into staying relevant. However, I would say that its top feature is that collaborative nature just for docs. And I've seen some creative uses for it. There is a video game podcast that I love, that I listen to very, very often. And they do these things where they analyze a video game series and they want to involve the community. So what they've ended up on is they have a Google Docs document, and then everyone should be responsible and get in with their comment in a timeline fashion. So they're like, all right, first chapter of the game, this happened to me, isn't this crazy? Then if you have a story to tell about the 7th chapter, you should scroll down and find that place and see if no one else has talked about this, so you don't want to say the same thing again and again. And then if not, then you add your story. And that's a very cool way to embrace community interaction just with a Google Doc. Very simple and very effective, and you don't need much more than that. And of course, it would be impossible if we were still stuck with Microsoft Word and everyone like download this, then you submit it to the person that has the main version that needs to make sure that there are no conflicts. That'd be impossible. Like in 2006, you cannot do this. Today, you can easily do it with something like Google Docs.
Yeah, it's a good reflection that a lot of the things that we do and search for other tools to do it, like Notion would be one, or Airtable would be other for spreadsheets. They could be done with Google Docs, and they don't need to set up another system or invite people to this new app if people are already on Google Docs and they can share. If it's a video game community, that it's more likely that people are familiar with this tool than any other tool. So why you would go innovate in this?
I would say that not just in the space of a video game community, I would say anyone in the world, if you give them a Google Docs link, they'll be able to access it because they will have a Google account. I'd imagine most people that at least listen to podcasts and have access to the internet have a Google account. So give them a Google Docs link, they can access it. Great. If you start telling them, well, there is this thing in Notion, then they'll need to sign up for Notion, link their Google account. Notion is going to try to upsell them to get like more spaces and whatnot. And they will not want to bother. Like lots of people will say, Airtable, that I don't like this. Well, if you just send a Google Doc link, I imagine everyone will just click it and answer. Which also happens with Google Forms, I'd imagine. People, stats say that people are more willing to go through a Google form than a random, like unbranded survey that they've never seen before. Like just the Google name makes them a bit more willing to interface. It feels more trusted and familiar.
Yeah, ugly and familiar, but yeah, I like it.
Ugly and familiar. Are we talking about Google Docs or about myself? I don't know. Like there was this a dick?
Yes, but we mentioned Notion, and maybe we should talk a bit about it because it's, as I know, it's a lovable app by both of us at least, and we use it a lot, and it's our choice when it comes to writing documentation and sharing and doing live collaboration. And also, just a note on this, I noticed the recent features that Google Docs released, they were pretty much inspired by Notion.
Yeah.
And even some blogs that I've seen, they were saying like, just like Notion, Google Docs now has this, which is the shortcuts, some table templates, and some things like that Notion would offer you.
Yeah, so Notion, you have the slash commands, and the big features that they have a bit earlier than most people got into the AI train was AI generation. You could slash command and say, write something based on the headlines that I have here, or summarize this paragraph, or keep going while I'm writing. And those are the features that maybe about a year later, now Google Docs is trying to embrace.
Yeah, and isn't Notion just like a little more fun? And
oh yeah,
was
definitely
a key differentiator.
So why would you say that Notion is more fun?
Well, it does look like you're creating a web page, and then you have like emojis, you have titles, you have colors, you have a little bit of life, what the internet looks like.
Emojis was the answer I was looking for. Indeed, like it seems like it's a key feature. Like every time you add a new page, then it asks like, do you want like an emoji cover for this? Here's a random emoji icon if you don't want to pick one for yourself. So just having emojis being like a hero of this product makes it more fun in my eyes. It lets you know that you can have a bit more fun with this.
And the question is, Johnny, do you think the emoji in the page was a feature creep?
For Notion, interesting.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. So definitely a feature creep. Like I imagine there will be PMs that would be saying, are we holding on this release, on going live in public, more moving out of beta or whatever else? Because we don't have emoji support, you cannot tie this document to an emoji. This is nuts. Like I will fight against it. This is a feature creep. So I would say, yes, feature creep. But I would also say necessary feature creep, much like the Google Docs features that we talked about. The collab is MVP. We need to do this, even if theoretically you can write a document just by yourself. I think that Notion needed a differentiator there and not be just another wiki, not another wiki-style interface. And I think emojis would be the cheapest one they could do. Like all we need to do is just add this one character to any page, tie it there and have it front and center on every document. And that makes it immediately more fun and more recognizable. And I think that had downstream effects all around, because I do think since Notion became popular, lots of websites are embracing emojis much, much more.
Indeed. It's a necessary feature creep. NFP. NFP is the new MVP.
With our accents, I would stay away from acronyms like NFP, because people may think we're talking about NFTs and that we're crypto pros, which is far from the truth.
True. That's why we use captions on our videos, and we repeat things.
And we meticulously go through the captions in order to make sure that they are correct. Yeah. Unless you disagree with us. If you disagree with something we said, it's just a caption. It's just a mistake. It's a typo.
That's it. And so on the emojis thing, I don't know if you used Coda before, which is another competitor of all this live collaboration documentation. It's Coda, it's a competitor of Notion, pretty much the same. But they have one thing that I like on this: when you create a new page and you add a title and you add an emoji, that Notion has, same thing, but they auto-generate the emoji based on the title. They try to figure out which emoji to use there based on the title of the
Are
page.
you saying that
which I think
Notion doesn't do this? Because I would guess that Notion also tries to find a related emoji there. No?
Unless it's something that they released this week, but I haven't used that on Notion.
Right. Nice. That's pretty cool and kind of easy. Like I've done projects like weekend projects where based on a word or a paragraph, then you find an emoji or randomly select an emoji. So it feels very doable. It feels like a feature creep, yes, but so easy you might as well just do it.
There you go.
Nice. Any other competitors we should talk about? The biggest competitor was Microsoft Word and Microsoft Office Suite we talked about. Related ones, maybe some specialized ones like Final Draft, which is the Mac Apple version specifically for writers. So to write movies, you have Final Draft, which has this whole setting where you can say scene one, camera zooms in, then this person talks, or if you're writing plays, that sort of thing. So more niched product, but still for writing. You have Ulysses, which is Mac only again, but fancy writing app, which claims that it's distraction-free, so it helps you write mode. There are, I'm not sure if Google Docs has a distraction-free writing mode. It may have. Notion definitely doesn't, as far as I know. But much like many Apple apps, made for iOS and Mac, they sell a lot the design. That the design is like so sleek and minimal and distraction-free, and that's why you need to pay a bit of money to get this. But
yeah,
go on.
No, it's niched, and it's I can totally see there's a space for that and people that we use because of that. And we as users, we tend to use Notion because we care more about the live collaboration part and something that would feel like a web page, something that you can organize sort of like a web page would be, like links and things like that.
Yeah, the wiki style functionality where you can link documents together and hyperlink into one another. Like Google Docs kind of has, but it's nowhere near as Notion, where you can have things like a Kanban view and then you can organize your documents in like, oh, ready, done, needs work. There is so many ways to interweave your documents and collaborate with others in Notion that Google Docs itself, like it's not quite to that level.
And we are more about that, but people might be more about the writing experience, and then Ulysses would be the app for them. And I understand there's a niche for that.
The Coda app that you talked about, which is more of a Notion competitor as well, I saw the emojis that they had initially in this section in the emoji reactions. And I wanted to ask you, do you know the book, Write Useful Books?
No.
Do you know the book Workshop Survival Guide?
No.
But you do know the book. It's the same author. That's why I'm asking you. You do know the book The Mom Test?
Yes, of course.
So the same author, Rob Fitzpatrick, the clean take, has written this Write Useful Books book, which is yet again a banger, a very useful book. And for this book, he made or collaborated with someone to make his own version of a writing helper. So instead of having Google Docs and then having people go to a version of his draft and get the feedback from them and say, oh, you need to change this, you need to change that, he made a dedicated app where people can more easily get in there and say, this section, I love it. Oh, this is insight. Like I would pay for this, or I don't understand what they're trying to say this, or this is fluff. So he identified, maybe you can kind of see them in this image, like about 5-6 types of comment where you can say, I love it, I'm confused, you lost me, like that sort of thing. And therefore managed to get the feedback faster than it would be if he was doing a community style project in Google Docs. So yet again, another type of thing where if you are in a specific niche, you may find tools that offer something more than just Google Docs or even just Notion. So if you are a writer, you may want to ask your users how your book is going. If you're managing to get your message across, you may need a dedicated app like that. And I was reminded of this because in Coda, you could see that there were some sections here where people could easily go and say, option this, thumbs down. Option 2, thumbs up. Again, emoji-based like Notion, but they're using it for feedback, I guess, for quick user feedback.
Yeah, and that's more focused on a niche of product creation, maybe, or a collaborative workplace. But yeah, there's so many niche that can be explored with apps like Google Docs, like you said, for writers, for academic purpose, for content creation, resumes, and all that. So you can see there's still space for new apps to be created.
What would you say is the top Google Docs feature nowadays? 2023 Google Docs. Ooh. This is why I go there.
Whoa. The reason that why we go there, you and I, Johnny, is for grammar check.
We did that just yesterday. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the features I like on Google Docs that is slightly better than some other apps that are used, including Notion, is this thing which is fairly recent. I don't know the exact date when they released it, but it's the view editing and suggesting option on the top right corner. If you have access to the document, you could have different types of access. You could have the commenting access, the suggesting access, and the view only access, and the editing access. So all this is really better for some people you would want just to collaborate fully. Some other people you just want comments. From some other people you want suggestions. So it's easy to share that way. I really like that feature. As I see after they introduced the feature is when I started seeing the use cases for it. So they identified something that I haven't thought about before, and I really appreciate this feature.
It ties very nicely to another feature that they have, which is like a commenting feature, where it used to be all you could do in a document. You could just write more, delete stuff, rewrite, edit, that sort of thing. But now, since it's the web and you're not writing on an actual page, you can press a button and then add a comment there, or even an emoji reaction nowadays. And you can suggest edits and that sort of thing. So instead of directly affecting the document when you're working with someone else, you may just tell them, is this meant to be wrong? Did you mean to have a grammatical mistake here? Or do you want to talk about this? Or this is a good opportunity to talk about this? Or maybe this section should come earlier, or maybe I'm confused with this section. But then you may want to publish this and share this document to a few people that won't necessarily be able to accidentally just get in and change your document. Maybe you're afraid that someone will do this. Maybe they're not that familiar with tech, or maybe they're too much of a self-starter because they work in the startup world and they will just change it without telling you. So in that case, you do what you were talking about. You invite them in as someone that is able to do suggestions and comments, and view, of course, but not able to directly edit the document.
Yeah, that's it. And I think the suggestion is quite nice in UI wise. When you type on top of a part of the document, it still shows you what was there before and what is your suggestion. So I kind of like that. Slick UI, at least one thing in slick UI on Google Docs, because the rest is very much 2010. And how about you, Jenny? What's your top feature of Google
It has to be still the collaborative aspect, and especially being able to see where the other person is, what they're talking about. Even if we were just sharing the agenda today, I'd be able to see that, oh, you're probably looking at this because your cursor is over there. So we kind of, we're able to be in sync on what we're talking about without actually talking, which is always amazing. So all the collaborative features, if I were to put them in one umbrella, I would say it's them. Even Notion doesn't do this, we've noticed, in that I will see the section where you're on, but I will not see the cursor and exactly where you are. It's not as good if you are hovering somewhere. It won't show me that you're hovering somewhere over there, and it will get stuck on wherever your cursor is, which is, well, there is room for improvement. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and I agree, it's a great feature. But nowadays, apps, collaborative apps, people just take it as a given that will be live collaboration. And will be, and when I access an app, I'll feel like, oh, so I guess I can live collaborate. I worked in a live collaboration app for Spotify, and it's an incredibly hard problem to solve in general. But people would get very confused with the app for not being live, for not having live collaboration, because they would have to save and click a button to sync with other people. Imagine that. Imagine if you're on Google Docs and you have to save or a document, and you have to click a button to sync so others would see your changes. So
yeah,
it's a natural at the moment.
It's how you may imagine that some people do not know what the save action actually means. Like, what is a disk? They may not know this. It's just the save action. Maybe at some point people will not know what saving a document even means, because saving is something that happens automatically. I guess there will always be games like Pokemon that force you to save automatically, but even those will die out at some point. They will switch to autosave. I think people just don't think about saving as much as we did back in the day. It just happens. It should happen. Everything should be perfectly synced, and I should never lose progress and have unlimited undos, I guess, if it comes to that.
Yeah. And what has enabled that is version history, which is something that Google Docs introduced very well as well. So imagine autosave without Command Z, without version history. So people would feel very, very scared about not being able to roll back a massive change.
Yeah, I think it's helped the whole creativity and iteration process, because the method of just commenting out stuff or just pushing them off screen, they're still in your head. You can't figure out the flow of what you're trying to write if you can still kind of see those paragraphs that you want to discard. But having confidence in the version control system and saying, all right, I'm going to clean this and nuke all of this, and if it just doesn't work out, this other path that I'm trying to take, then I'll revert back, and it's no big deal. So it allows people to be more daring, I guess, with their rewrites, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and in reflecting on it, so many things that feels like Google Docs repurposed, so many techniques that Google Docs maybe have invented or repurposed into document collaboration that actually are amazing if you look back now.
And as you say, people expect the autosave and the sync and the parallel collaboration stuff nowadays. And it's very hard to do, which is bad news for us engineers, or maybe good news, because that means we have a job. But maybe 10 years ago, I've worked in quite a lot of interfaces, what you see, what you get editors, and that sort of thing. And then it would have been a feature creep to try to make it work with collaborative features, because it's such a huge project. You would just say, well, no one will work on it in parallel. You just have the one person working on this one section, and then they click save, and that's it. And you were trying to convince the stakeholders that you don't need to worry about the race condition. What if someone else is working on the same thing? It never happens. 10 years ago, it never happened. Now, essential. You cannot ship without that functionality.
It's a given. Live collaboration is a given nowadays.
So, should we actually move on to talking about features that could take Google Docs to the next level? It's a hard piece of software to do it on, because it's based on Microsoft Word, which was for years and years getting enterprise level support and money to add more features. But I think we can do it. So how do you feel?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited for this part. This is the moment we've been waiting for.
Everyone's waiting for this. Everyone's eager. So the floor is yours.
It's mine. Ooh. All right. Let's think where we start with our AR, AI bingo slots that we still have to cover today. But I think you say it's hard, but I say it's fairly easy to future-proof Google Docs because it has been boring for so long that anything you do would take it to the next level. But let's start with a generative video explaining the document.
Wow. I love it.
How about that?
Say more.
So you get a document, you're gonna read it, and it's long and it's boring, and then you click a button, and then it just creates an avatar. Maybe it's the avatar of the person that wrote the document, even better, with a voice, and then summarize the video and talks to you through the sections in a generative AI video content thing.
All right.
2023.
I love this.
It's October. Let's do this.
Take my money. So Notion has some sort of this functionality, and Google is looking to bring it in, where you can select a section and say, summarize this. Like, I don't have all the time in the world, just summarize this for me. And that's okay, I guess, but you're taking it to the next level, where you actually get an avatar of the person that wrote this, potentially, or anyone else that will speak you about this. So you add like more intonation and that sort of thing into it. You should be able to, well, if I were to read something, be able to write up a summary and then tell you what's this book about, for example, it would probably be better than you just reading the summary at the back of the book. And if the AI version was that good, that's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people are visual, and for example, myself, I'm a bit dyslexic as well. I cannot read much on the. If there is a long document, I will get a bit lost. And having someone explaining, and maybe you can add some emotions to it as well. It reads the emotion and add someone just to dramatic read that, like Morgan Freeman or Tom Cruise to read your document.
But we shouldn't be pigeonholed into a person is telling you the story and the summary. You could even have a proper video, like use video video elements to tell the story, tell the summary. So instead of someone telling you the story, you just see the story unfold in front of your eyes. And then you publish this on YouTube and you get like 1 million likes per episode. And all you did was write a few pages.
Damn. That's it.
That's it. Episode over. We need to build this, and and we're coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
So mine is much tamer by comparison. I think it's very easy for all these tools to be super boring and dry, as you said. Not just their UI and their feature set, but the document itself. Like by default, when we came to this page, the font was a boring Arial font you've seen before, just 11 font size, quite small, and then you can't help but write. And some people don't bother to change and use the titles and the headings and all of that stuff. So what I would like, if I could just tell an AI helper, if you want to call it the AI, make this beautiful. Like, I have this text, I've put the words that were in my head, I've put them on paper, I've put them on the document, make it beautiful, beautify this. And then it would be able to add the titles and the headings and do the bold and the emphasis and the underlines and nice fonts and all of those things without me needing to be a designer or put any effort into making it look nice. And then if it's gone a bit overboard, you can still have the same functionality where you go to this title and you make it smaller or use a different font. But just from this pretty boring start, being able to see something more nicely categorized, I think that'd be quite fun, quite helpful. I'd used it quite often.
And you should have an option to word art everything as well on that.
Word art? Is that ASCII? You mean ASCII art?
No, do you remember word art? Maybe you were in that for it.
Oh, like the clipboard art.
No, the word art was like a 3D, three-dimensional art that you could include on Microsoft Word.
Yeah, you'd commonly make the first letter. I would try to make the first letter of the paragraph be like this, but it wouldn't quite drop nicely.
Yeah, it had like a 3D shadow and so many options that were so ugly. And maybe it was beautiful at some stage and still hasn't come back, but maybe one day it will come back, It hasn't made a comeback yet. So maybe your feature would bring it back.
Something that is making a big dent now is that you can have color fonts. Did you know this? So we now have the technology for variable fonts, that's been known, but you also have the technology for color fonts. So you can actually encode in your font some color and some, therefore, 3D depth effect, because it's always a 2D screen. If you think you see depth, it's because the colors are different. There is some shadows and highlights and that sort of thing. So this may be making a comeback.
Wow, here we go.
So yeah, random word art in the document. That would be cool, for sure. That's something I would never think about, and therefore that's what I want from my AI assistant to make this beautiful. Something that I had never thought of before. Add it into the document and take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think that would be a great feature. And, you know, like we talked about add-ons and apps of Slack in the last episode. And Google Docs has the same feature. You have add-ons, you have apps that you can install. Maybe that would be the easiest way. Maybe already exists something that can take your document, use some AI, and make it more beautiful.
Yeah, auto
but
styling.
I see that visibility.
Nice. Do you have any other feature creeps? It sounds like you must have tons based on how you hyped yourself up.
I have some more, yes. Before I bring Clippy back, because every episode we talk a bit about bringing Clippy into everything, and I think that would be very appropriate. I thought about writing anywhere, but literally anywhere in terms of voice recognition, voice to text writing, and you use Siri or use Google Assistant, and you're walking on the streets, and then you say, "Oh, Google, open that document and add this to it because I had just thought of that." And the assistant would try to add into the right place in the document that you've been writing, and maybe use some artificial intelligence there as well to put in the right place. But it's in a way so you can have this creative freedom of you go for a run and then you think of something that you want to add to the document and you add it anywhere and use a voice assistant. It's a bit more boring than generative videos for summarizing, but that's
I like it. So the technology of everything you've said is there, but the hard thing is making the AI system like Siri understand that you want to add something specifically to this document and in this section. So theoretically possible, but in practice we're finding it hard. I use Siri all the time to turn on and off the lights in my house, and very often she will be confused with bedroom and bathroom and that sort of thing. And it does feel like if it happens with a document, it's a disaster, but not as much of a disaster as if it were to message a different person than the one you were intending, which Siri can do now. So that seems quite helpful and feasible.
Yeah, visibility is there, I think, more than the other idea for sure.
I guess at the very least, it could attach them as comments. So your random running thoughts about the document. If you want to be safe and not just go in there and then in the third paragraph insert this or in this section, it could just add them as comments on the side. So then you go home and you're like, all right, let's see what it captured. And then you can manually approve whether it should be plugged in.
Nice. You have MVP'd it. Great. Well done.
Yeah, that's a feasible MVP. Let's do it.
Nice.
So,
what's your second one, Jenny? Yeah.
Speaking of kinda texting, do you know the game where you're supposed to start with a word? You go to your messages, your SMSs back in the day, or you go to Telegram or whatever you're using, and you write the one word, and then you let autocomplete the rest of the result, and you just keep going so long as you get the suggestions. So I go to WhatsApp, I find you, I say hello, and then I get 3 suggestions, and I keep typing, or I just get the one depending on what type of keyboard you're using, how the autocomplete works. And you just keep going and going and going, and at some point it will be like a crazy story that happens. And that's kind of what I want for my Google Docs feature, which is I want to type hello and then keep pressing tab, and then it keeps going, and the story keeps going. And when it starts getting a bit weird, maybe I go back in and I delete and I change how it goes. And that's about it. So Notion does have a similar thing in Google Docs. It's going to add the thing where just say something like fill in this paragraph or do some bullet points or whatever. But I think being able to just tab complete, having that in would be more fun, more unpredictable.
Yeah, you could voice input it with Google Docs. Say like, oh, it's getting a bit weird, roll back.
Weirder,
And then
weirder.
it retypes. But I have a similar idea, and I'll bring Clippy back on that one, which is you're writing. Obviously, Clippy was that as an assistant for teaching you how to use Word, Microsoft Word, and some other Microsoft tools. I don't actually remember all the suggestions there, but Clippy was this clip assistant image that would appear on the corner of your screen, and it would say, oh, try and use the formatting tool now, and things like that. But it was algorithmic and under heuristics, and obviously it needs to make a comeback in somewhere because of AI. It has to be our first artificial general intelligence, as we said before. But what if you're writing and it gives you instant feedback in terms of, oh, this is not very good, mate. Stop writing now. Or just goes into like, this is clearly plagiarism. Stop writing this. This is somewhere else. So it's sort of like that pairing writing buddy.
Yeah, if you see them as a pairing writing buddy, it can go well. If you see them as a backseat rider, like nobody likes backseat drivers. So if you're trying to drive somewhere and you have a guy, oh, do you really want to go left? Do you really want to take the highway here? Or do you really want to go this? Or do you want to go too fast, too slow? It has the potential to be annoying. But of course, if humans trust the AI enough, it can be amazing. If you can trust that, if it can identify specifically that I'm writing a letter to you, which was the big highlight feature of the original Clippy. So you'd start a document with Dear Joao, and then it'd be like, looks like you're writing a letter. Let me help you with that. I can, if you want. It wasn't that good at helping, but it was all right enough. But nowadays, maybe it can even identify and know that, oh, Joao, do you mean this person from your contacts? And then I'd say yes. And then I'd keep writing the letter, and then it would tell me, well, Joao would never get this, or Joao would be offended by this, or Joao would love this, like make more jokes like this, and have more personalized feedback other than the basic grammar and spelling that the original Clippy would help you with.
Yeah, I think that is better. That is better. And there is potential, and it will happen. It's inevitable.
I guess it's like 3D context. I don't know. Maybe this sounds like too much like jargon, but I'm thinking that it's context in a few different levels. It could always identify that you're writing a letter, so that's the one context. But the other context could be it identifies who you are and what's your general writing style, so it tries to give more personalized feedback. And it identifies what you're writing for. So this is a short story, or it's a novel, or it should make it to the newspaper, or it should be a letter to this friend of yours. So it has like 3 different contexts to play with and give even more personalized feedback on what you're trying to write.
Yeah, that would be actually useful and keeps you in topic. You could go out of the topic that you first set for you to do, and then it keeps you, go back here.
It may help.
I would like to have some nice inputs like that. Oh, go back. Oh, this is not very good, mate. Stop that.
It may help it be a bit more nice, look a bit more amicable to you, because if you tell me this is too long, I may get offended. If you tell me that, the limit in this input, like you need to write this letter, it needs to be like 100 words. They ask for 100 words, and you bring me back to that. You remind me why this needs to be shorter, then I'll be more acceptable to that feedback. I guess is what I'm trying to say. If it could tell me this is too long, this needs to be 1 paragraph, so you should reduce it, then I'd be saying thank you. While if it just said this needs to be shorter, maybe I'd be like, ugh, what do you know?
Yeah, maybe it would be like, what do you know anyway? What do you know?
Depending on my confidence levels of the week.
Yes.
All right, we have a good rhythm going with you having some pretty cool idea and then me making it a bit more feasible. Like you are the cool engineer, I'm the boring product person. So do you want to keep going like that? I think I'm out of ideas because Emojis reaction was the one I had prepared for last time. But now you can easily do emoji reactions in Google Docs. Yeah. So they read my mind, they read my notes that I had on paper, and they added this feature by the time we recorded this episode in my prep. So I cannot suggest this anymore.
They did it again. Unbelievable.
Those wiretaps on iPhone are paying off.
Yes. Don't use Google Assistant. They will steal your ideas. So I just thought of one that's additional to the first idea that we talked about, where you have the generative video summarizing and someone just explaining your document. What if because I wanted to add AR, we haven't hit that bingo slot yet. AR, immersive reading. So you put your goggles and it starts sort of a video and sort of like this immersive experience of the document. It takes you through the universe and takes you through whatever is written in the document, but with images and someone speaking here, someone speaking there, and I don't know, makes it into a game, whatever. What do you think of that?
I love it. The most cliche opening for a fiction story is "It was a dark and stormy night," and your idea would make it be a dark and stormy night. So you start reading the document and it's like thunder comes down and you can hear the raindrop and the lighting dims and flashes as the lightning strikes. Amazing.
Oh man, I think this will happen, to be honest. I think with all the Visual Pro thing coming, and there'll be ways of interacting with documents that will be more immersive. Maybe not exactly that, but something similar.
This also reminds me of how very often mobile-first development would be talked about but neglected, and people would code their websites on their big MacBooks and laptops, and then neglect that on the phone. It looks terrible. So I'm wondering if people would write worse books, because they'd be like, well, if you use it with the AR, VR enhanced mode, where it sets the settings and it has the thunder striking, then it's awesome. And neglect that most people are just going to read it like, on the bus on Kindle and not have the AR functionality. So the highest of highs will be awesome, but you could get the lowest of lows where people write specifically or mostly for the AR experience that most people are not going to experience, because not everyone is going to have an Apple Vision Pro even years after it launches.
That's why it's a feature creep. Unnecessary complexity to users.
But it's a perfect feature creep because it targets like the possessed and potentially most wealthy of individuals. If you have an Apple Vision Pro and you are a writer and you want to cater to people that have Apple Vision Pros, then of course you're going to use this feature. So, you better pay up.
Yeah. It will come because they are listening to this and they'll build it again.
I don't think the algorithm is good enough to both figure out our accents and organize through, be able to survive through all our random thoughts, because we always have fun ideas, and then goldmine idea, and it's hard to find those. Maybe not.
Sure.
The audience will tell me that we're awesome all the time, 24/7. Fun
yes,
and
that's
value.
what we want to hear.
Any more features from you?
I think I'm tapping out of features. I may have one more if we have time.
So there is one that's kind of related to Google Calendar, because Google Calendar has that integration with Google Meets where you can create an agenda for the meeting, and that agenda is of course Google Docs because it's another Google product. You can steal the summarizing idea there and then be like, all right, this Google Meet, summarize it after the fact into this Google document. There are other companies that do this, but Google could do it firsthand and mix it in with your idea where, at first it edits the video from the meeting, the video recording for the meeting. So it's actually the summary. You just see the highlights. And then it actually creates a custom video using the avatars of the people in the meeting to give you the summary there. So make everyone look a bit better because they've managed to summarize this video and say all the value they had to say within 30 minutes. Now it's 5 minutes and everyone seems super clever when they talk and you play the meeting back. So yeah, a bit Google Meet, a bit Google Docs, a bit video. I guess they own YouTube as well, so maybe it publishes on a private as a private YouTube link as well. They could mix in those things. I wasn't keen to say this idea because it's not really Google Docs, it's like the whole Google ecosystem, but there is some potential there.
But you have to say it because that triggered another idea for me related to that. That's why you always have to say your ideas, because no matter, what they are, they will always trigger brainstorming. And what I was thinking in combining that with Google Docs, a lot of the documents that you create and combining with Google Calendar, a lot of the documents that you create, they are a preparation for a meeting. This happens a lot, right? Create a document is a preparation for a meeting. People will read through the document before the meeting or not. I would say most of the time people won't be prepared, and you have to read the document with them and take them through the documents in the meeting, the documents that were supposed to be a preparation. And that's a common problem. So what if we use that generative video AI, and then if people want to join the meeting 5 minutes before, they get to watch the video.
Wow.
In the Meet calendar invite. So boom, summarizes, and then you start the meeting there. That's the $1 billion idea right there.
This is amazing because it also makes the people who are habitually 5 minutes late to meetings be on time because they are supposed to come 5 minutes early to watch the summarizer video.
You're trying to say something here, Jenny?
Not at all.
No, joking. All right, I think this is on the money.
This is really good. I'm trying to open up the Loom website, which the one thing with bad about living in Barcelona is that every website tries to open in Spanish for me, and my Spanish isn't as good. So what's the Loom video thing? Are you familiar with Loom?
Yes.
And they're doing Loom AI as well. You're supposed to offline record a video of your screen and do the demo of your project, or be like, oh, in this document I'm having this trouble or this code, and you have your nice avatar on the side so it looks more human and more friendly. You could put all of these ideas together into creating like the video prep for the meeting. So you have put together the document that you're gonna attach to the Google Meet, and the meeting you're gonna have at 2 p.m. and it generates that 5-minute summary, which is your idea for people to see either offline or 5 minutes before the meeting. But yeah, I think my suggestion is Google should buy all those companies and make this happen faster, because that's like a big feature that's going to add so much value to Google Meet and Google Docs and Google Calendar.
And it could be one of those apps on Google Meet that actually join the meeting and shows the video there, shares the screen, show the video, like an automated app, other than someone, I have to play the video here, because that up to a human, they will make mistakes.
You can feature creep that idea specifically and have the video have a question in the end that proves whether you've watched it or not. It doesn't need to be like too good. It could be like one of those we do for GDPR training and compliance, where you can kind of guess it, even if you didn't watch the half-hour seminar. But then, like, you need to prove you've watched it, you answer this question. If not, it needs to play for you. You cannot see the other people in the meeting and you cannot hear them, because you are trapped into what's in the summary, which maybe, if you don't want that to happen, then get 5 minutes early and be prepared for the meeting, or watch it offline. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, there's something on that.
So are we actually typing out? Is this it for feature creeps for Google Docs?
I think we got it. I think that's it.
All right, off the top of your head, just because we talked about Notion, which is its own thing quite a lot, feature creep for Notion, we will probably be doing a dedicated episode on Notion at some point. But just off the back of talking so much about Google Docs, top of your head, feature creep for Notion.
Everything is AI related and AR related at the moment in my head and everyone's head, I would say. Let's think. Let's think a bit more. Notion has quite a lot of AI features they have released, and they are working heavily on it. One thing that Notion could make better is integrations with other apps, and allowing you to create apps and things that Slack would have, Google Docs would have. But that wouldn't be a feature creep on itself. Maybe I will borrow one of the ones from Google Docs, and we can try and integrate into Notion, which is create a critical profile of someone. A critical profile meaning like the way they criticize things. So Johnny likes to criticize things this way. He's very direct and all of that. Let's encapsulate that into like a pair writer. And then as you're writing, you will give your Johnny criticism into the things you write.
Right.
How about that?
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of like that Clippy idea where it can have the context of you're addressing this too, but you're trying to make the Clippy feedback have the profile of a specific person. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. And then for Notion, obviously, it has to be a / command. So like / Johnny critic.
Yeah, I tried to run a / command for
Johnny.
I tried to run a / command for Notion AI to summarize or suggest another agenda item for us, but I don't think I can do it because this is your Notion space, and maybe they only have it available for you because I'm a guest in this workspace, and maybe they won't specifically upsell you for some reason every time they use the AI features.
Otherwise, you're going to use all my credits on AI generation.
Yeah. It's the next level of like viewer, editor, writer support. It's like the next level is like AI enabled. Like you can use AI features, which we all know are so expensive.
Yeah. How many times have you said AI on this episode?
AI 800, like AI 800. I wanted to make a pun with AI and 800, but I once again do not have the accent to pull it off nicely.
Well, we can always fix that later. Sorry.
We'll fix it with AI dubbing now coming into the script.
Exactly.
All right. So we've done the feature scripting. We talked about Google Docs and a lot of the competitors, especially Notion as well. We didn't talk about Office that much, mostly in the beginning. Do you feel like Office is not that relevant anymore? I'm sure there are many people from big companies that are saying, oh, I use Office every day, and especially Excel. But maybe not that relevant anymore.
I think most people would use Microsoft Office because they have to, because it's what's available to them. But also, I know some people would use because, for example, the spreadsheets is slightly better than the Microsoft Excel in some functions and some things. They have a lot of features that Google Sheets don't have. So if people want more advanced features on that, they would go for Microsoft Office.
Yeah, I've heard this before, and you can do a lot of stuff with Google Sheets, but Microsoft Excel is still best in class for sure. Some people have based their companies over Excel docs and crazy formulas they have amended and fine-tuned over the years.
Isn't that every company in the world is based on Excel?
Yeah, for many, many years, what people really have me do as an engineer is take these things out of this Excel spreadsheet and make them public somewhere, visible somewhere else, and then allow people to edit it, like show some graphs based on them. Allow people to edit and export them back into Google Excel, Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. Anyway, I digress. We did say that of all the features we talked about, they were all super fun. If we were to attempt to create one in a week and have like a demo and go to the stakeholders and say, like, in 1 week, we managed to get this prototype demo here, and this is what we want to do, give us your money, what would we choose out of everything we talked about today?
For the 1 week one, we could try the voice recognition, the voice transcript into comments in a document for like ideas into that document. There may be some blockers in off and things like that, but we can always prototype that in a way.
I like that. I think the summarizer is more exciting and maybe even easier because it feels like you could ask ChatGPT to take this document and give me a summary, and then you just need to find another API where you feed it this summary and you have the voice to text and do some background art there. I think that may be cooler and more feasible.
Yeah, I agree. It's as feasible, I'd say, and it's just it could be expensive nowadays. Like generative art is still very expensive to generate videos and things like that. But if we're building a prototype, no one cares about the costs.
Money is no object when it's a prototype. Blank checks everywhere. I guess for yours, my worry was how does it find the document? But if it's a prototype, then you can have the one document hard-coded in and it just works there. So yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
Let us know if you've made it this far. Would you like us to do this and have a demo the other week, or a sweet short TikTok showing this feature, pretending we're putting it out on the board, and maybe fun. Let us know if you think so as well.
Exactly. Awesome.
Cool. I think this means that we're done for this week's episode on Google Docs and other document collaboration tools and writing tools.
Yeah, I think this is it. This has been great. Thanks a lot, Johnny. Thanks
Thank
for all
you,
your
Joao.
inputs.
I'm not an AI. You can't just say that you're giving me inputs and I give you outputs. I'm a real person. You have actually seen me in 3D. Maybe some people in the audience do doubt that we are real people, but of all the people, you should know that I'm not AI.
You're not. You're not.
All right. So this is going to be it. We don't know what we're going to do for the next episode, but you always have a chance to suggest the tech and the app, anything you want, really, that you want the critique, the analysis, the feature creeping by us two lovely, distinguished software engineers. Always keen to talk about things that people want to hear. So let us know. It's been a pleasure for me, Joao, besides my bad joke in the end.
This has been great.
This has been great. Any last words to take us away?
That's all. Thanks, everyone. I hope you liked it, and I will see you in a few weeks.
Likewise. Thanks a bunch, everyone, and we'll see you